Hi guys, welcome back to AFTV News Daily. I'm here with Julian. How you doing, Julian?
Perfect.
You're perfect.
In every way.
Okay. These streams with you, man, they are something else. Perfect. Why perfect?
Because I've had a really good day.
Good.
Which followed a really good night.
Okay.
Yeah, Arsenal victory.
Yeah.
Come back in here. Interviewed Keith Edelman.
Tell people what's been, as I knock my glasses, tell people what's been going on today.
Spent a great hour with Keith Edelman, who is the former managing director of Arsenal. Was responsible, not on his own, but had a big input into the move from Highbury to what was known at the time as Ashburton Grove.
There you go.
And he talked very much on the details of that. And a lot of the other things he got involved with. Something I didn't realise was the commercial team back when he was involved was about 6 people.
There you go.
It's now 70. Really good insight. Good insight.
Well, Keith Edelman was here to obviously take part in the Marble Halls podcast. I've got something in my eye. Which you can find on all podcast platforms. You can find on AFTV VIP as well, hosted by Julian and Harvey. 2 weeks ago, you had Sky Andrew, the agent who got Sol Campbell from Tottenham to Arsenal. He's got some fascinating stories around all that, so do go listen to that as well. This week, or coming out tomorrow morning, you'll be able to hear all about that Emirates Stadium move, kind of how it came together and stuff. But I was here to listen to it. It was good stuff.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah,
really insightful. Good.
Well, we are here to discuss Eddie Nketiah and Alex Lacazette, and the reason is it's been a slow news day. No, but we wanted to. On the back of Nketiah's performance last night, on the back of Lacazette's cameos, but also Nketiah did well against Wimbledon, looked sharp in pre-season. Arsenal have been left in a very weird situation. We've got two strikers that it's become very popular to say they're crap, get rid of them, whatever. They've obviously got quality, whether it's to the level Arsenal want or to the level of the top 4 or Champions League footballers, whatever, but they've got quality and there's a real value for that quality, and we're in a position where they're soon entering the last 6 months of their contract. In about 2 months they can start negotiating with other clubs, and Arsenal, I don't believe, know what they want to do with these two strikers. Let's touch on Eddie Nketiah before we move on to Lacazette. What are your general kind of thoughts on Nketiah? Because we don't really talk about him too much between us, but he did well last night.
He did exceptionally well last night. I like Eddie.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I saw him play, he came on, I think it was against Norwich in a League Cup game. This purely from memory, I think we were losing 1-0.
We were losing 1-0, yeah, I remember it well.
He scored with his first touch, Callum Chambers-esque.
Yeah.
He then followed that up with the winner. And the whole stadium, one thing I remember about that night, the whole stadium was just singing, Eddie, Eddie, Eddie. And he became almost a hero instantly.
Yeah.
He hasn't really pushed on since then,
no,
but he's in a position where he's got some real quality ahead of him. And the kind of money that they spent on Aubameyang and Lacazette means it's very difficult for a young player that isn't proven to get in above them. It's a very brave manager that drops the players that are on those kind of money, that have cost that kind of money, and replace them with a raw talent.
But I've seen Ryan Brewster leave Liverpool for 24 million, and he hadn't done anything really in the Liverpool first team. I saw Dominic Solanke go from Chelsea to Liverpool, I think on a free, but then they sold him for 18 mil to Bournemouth. I've seen young strikers kind of with reputations that almost run before they can walk, go for big money. I'm looking at Nketiah, for whatever reason, the interest hasn't really been there. And yeah, I know he's not really delivered in terms of the potential we all felt he had, but he puts up good numbers. He scores goals at a very decent level. He has scored Premier League goals, he's scored cup goals, and I don't really know why there's been such a lack of interest in him, really. I don't know what it is. I don't know if he's stylistically the kind of striker people like, because he's not a target man, even though he's physically, pretty gifted.
He puts it about.
Yeah, but he's also not blessed with tremendous skill. He's just like a bit of a fox in the box. He's just a bit of a poacher. But maybe in this era, you want more from a striker.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. Apart from last night where we discussed it, I think, this afternoon, and I thought at the time it was an absolutely tremendous goal. I'd probably like to revisit that, having seen it.
Last night's finish, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, it's indicative of... I love fan cams, but once the game's finished, the way fan cams work is you're still pumped up, you're excited, and I get ever so excited when I go to the games, and I come out of there, especially after an Arsenal victory, and I'm so enthusiastic, I'm so happy, I do get somewhat carried away, which is exactly the time in hindsight sometimes you maybe shouldn't be interviewed, but of course true. That's what people want to see. They want to see the initial reaction.
It's the raw feeling, isn't it?
It's the raw feeling. My raw feeling at that time was I'd seen one of the greatest goals I'd ever seen. But having gone home and watched it another 20 times, I would like to revise that.
I saw the title of your fan cam.
Yeah.
It was Bergkamp-esque.
Look, that's what I thought at the time.
It
was more emotion than rational thinking. Having looked at it back, I would actually say there was 3 touches. The first 2 were exceptional.
Absolutely.
The third one wasn't. He could have missed it. It could have been one of his most embarrassing moments that actually could have devalued what he's worth. Imagine if he'd had that Ronnie Rosenthal moment where he just literally missed an open goal. What would have happened to his value at that point?
And that's actually crucial, because I felt he was having a good game. First half looked really sharp. Second half not as involved, but still working hard. And then there are 3 elements before the finish that I loved, which was the hard work. He wins or he challenges for the header, but he's working hard to then sort of chase the lost cause. And then the flick over the keeper, he makes it look easy, but it's not. It's such a supremely talented, skillful touch over the goalkeeper. And then he looks after the ball after, and I just wish he'd just slotted it in nicely. Honestly, we'd be saying if Ozil did that, if name sort of some of the most gifted players around the world, if they'd had scored that goal, we'd be talking wonders about it. We'd be seeing it all over. It's just that the finish was so scuffed.
It was a scuffed finish, and
was superb.
Probably was luck. I'm not saying 100% because we don't know 100%. He knows 100%, but having studied it at length last night, I would say that I'm now 95% sure that it was a scuffed finish. He got lucky. And the lucky part about it is that if he'd missed that, then he would be the laughingstock.
Yeah.
He really would, after doing all that.
Yeah, after a good performance.
Yeah, and then the transfer value, goes down massively.
So we've got Nketiah, who I felt played well yesterday, but I thought looked good in pre-season. Has looked good in the couple cameos we've seen. Obviously, he had like 3-4 weeks out, actually, at the start of the season. Obviously, we saw Balogun start the game at Brentford. So he's not had many chances this season at European football. We've then got Lacazette, who, again, I thought looked okay in pre-season when he played. Looked great when he came on against Palace, great against Villa. And again, another player, this time with, I think, a much bigger reputation. A player who we always knew on his day could be an ice-cold finisher. He was a real fighter. No one likes playing against Lacazette. But at the same time, he's not really delivered what we all hoped he would at Arsenal, certainly not in terms of numbers. And again, we're in this situation where do we really want to let him go for nothing? Before we talk about the value side of things with him and Nketiah, what are your thoughts on his resurgence the last few games?
Well, is it a resurgence or has he just got his chance? We can't say he's played badly because he hasn't played.
Yeah, very good point.
He was always, I don't remember us ever slating him particularly. He was always a good player. He's come into the team and he's made a big difference. When he came on against Palace, he turned the game. We were really dire. I thought before he came on, I know I've been criticised for it, and people say, look, Man City has to be the worst performance of the season. I thought, considering the opposition,
and the injuries,
and everything behind the City game, and I know I came out and I didn't justify it. I tried to give reasons why we did so badly, and we did terribly. But I actually thought, putting all that aside, that part of the Crystal Palace game, probably for an hour of the Crystal Palace game, considering the opposition, considering the fact we've got all our players, we don't really have too many injuries at the moment, was the worst part of our season,
Yeah.
the worst performance of our season, that hour. But what changed? He came on and made a massive difference.
Yeah.
And yes, we have missed him.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's shown what in the Palace cameo in the Villa game. I think he showed what we missed in terms of someone dropping deep up front. I know Aubameyang's working really hard, scoring goals, but Lacazette definitely offers something different in that role. Results last season showed that when we had Lacazette in the team, we were a better side. Some of our best results came with Lacazette leading the line. So, guys, this is what we're here to do. We are here. Let's see if we can get a poll up. Actually, what would you do with Nketiah and Lacazette? Would you let the contracts run down, get what you can out of them this season, move on? Or would you offer them a new deal? Now, what I'm taking off the table here, and feel free to let us know in the comment section if you feel differently. I'll text it over. Let us know if you feel differently. You might think, let's see if we can sell them in January. I'm going to argue that is going to be very difficult to do because, especially on the back of the pandemic and everything that's been going on, who is paying up front for an unproven striker or an aging striker when you can get them for free 6 months later at the start of a brand new season? So I'd be amazed if people would pay in January for those players, but maybe they might. So we're just going to text over to production team, get that question in. But yeah, let us know in the comment section what you guys would do.
There is another option.
Oh, okay, go on.
Is use one of them as a make weight in another deal, which is something that we did before with Sanchez. We were in exactly the same situation.
Yeah.
Okay, we got Mkhitaryan. That didn't particularly work out, but the concept was good. He would have walked away for nothing.
Yeah.
6 months after.
Yeah.
We swapped him for a player in a similar situation. I mean, we are not the only club that are in a situation where we've got players that are just about to become out of contract. There'll be other clubs in a similar situation. We've got to identify them, identify the players that work, and do some kind of swap as another option.
Yeah, I completely agree. We've got a super chat from Nick. Says, beat Leicester and results go our way, we could end up in 5th. Can't remember the last time Arsenal put in a performance with those circumstances, though. For everything you mentioned, you touched on the opening 3 games and adding context. We've definitely hauled ourselves back into the discussion in the mix for. I mean, we all said top 6 would be a good season for Arsenal. We're in the discussion for top 4 right now. Doesn't mean we're going to get it, but we're in the discussion if you're looking at the table. Things have definitely turned around for us in that perspective, and I think the super chat here is just kind of highlighting that. You're going to Leicester on the weekend?
Yeah.
You'll be there every game.
You're there as well.
I'll be there. I'll be at Leicester on the weekend.
Hopefully we'll get to sit next to each other and you can explain all the formations. And
I'll bore you and whoever's next.
No, it's not boring me. It's
okay,
educating me.
Yeah, well, I'm glad. Well, don't forget to check out Tactical Insight if you want, guys. As I said, let us know in the comment section what you think, what we should do. But that's kind of what we're going to dissect now. We've given all the context and everything around it. Nketiah and Lacazette now. Let's take the whole using them as a make way off the table because that feels difficult to do, though possible. Let's also take the sell them in January off the table. Again, I'd be amazed if someone were to pay decent money. Because what's more worth it to us? Getting 5 million for Lacazette in January or getting what we can out of him for the rest of the season? I'd argue getting what we can for the rest of the season. So I don't see selling him in January unless someone's willing to pay 25 million as an option.
Okay, it depends how you view Arsenal's money. Mm-hmm. Now, I heard Lee back in the summer during the transfer window, and he said something along the lines of, I don't care if they spend 300 million, it's not my money.
Sure.
So from a fan's perspective, maybe they're not so interested in balance sheets. All we really care about as fans is the success of the team. Mm-hmm. So do they see it as our money or someone else's money? If it's someone else's money, as fans, what do we want? We'll pay him whatever. Doesn't come out of our pocket. Keep him on. If, as in my opinion, we've got to look at things in a little bit more reality, there is a finite amount of money. Mm-hmm. So if we pay that extra or we extend the contract, I mean, look at the Aubameyang situation. The clamour was, we need him. If he goes, then the whole world comes to an end. So what did they do? They put a big contract and they kept him. Mm-hmm. A few months down the line, people not happy. we're kind of saddled with an ageing player who's not playing well. He seems to have turned it around quite well in the last few weeks, but I don't think it will take a lot for the fans to go exactly the other way.
Yeah, sure.
So it's very difficult to know what decision to make unless you've got a DeLorean and can go and have a look at the future, especially with Lacazette. Lacazette, correct me if I'm wrong, he's in his early 30s.
Yeah.
The kind of contract that he'll want, the agent will always push for a 3-4 year contract. If we can get a year's extension on similar money to what he's on now, which from what I've just seen is pretty extortionate anyway, then that's probably, in my view, a wise commercial move, because then it gives us the option to then move him on for a bit of money. But he is, and I hate using this because we're talking about a person, but the reality is he is a depreciating asset. Whereas Nketiah could be an appreciating asset, depending on how well his career goes. Because one thing...
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I would hate, and I've seen it before with a number of players, Gnabry's the one that comes to mind, is that you let a young player go and they become 50 million, 70 million, however many £1 million player at another team.
Yeah.
Whereas we know Lacazette, he's had his best years.
Yeah, but is he a better player than Nketiah? Is he Is he a player that you would want to ultimately? Do I think Lacazette can perform at this level for another year and a half, 2 years?
Yeah,
I do.
I do.
So it's such a tricky. Let's see what the poll's saying. So the question we asked: what would you do with Nketiah and Lacazette? Let them leave for free or extend their contracts? Personally, despite loving their work ethic and appreciating there's quality there, I'm going to hit let them leave for free, because I think it's time to move on. But wow, 63% of people have voted to extend their contracts. That actually really surprises me.
It all depends on, when they say extend the contract, are you looking to give them an Aubameyang, a Willian type deal, massive money for 3-4 years, or are you looking to extend for a year on the current money?
But the players aren't charities, and Nketiah's going to want some sort of 4-year deal, I would imagine, and some kind of reassurance that he's part of the future. He's a guy who's going to want to be playing. Lacazette at least will want a decent contract, because it will probably be the last big one he gets, the last 6-figure one a week he gets anyway. So I think the assumption that they'll do it on terms that really suit us, because what we'd all love is, how about 1 year extension on the same money, and then we'll figure it out a year on what we do. They're not going to want to do that.
They're not, but then that's what negotiation is all about.
Yeah.
But the issue we've got is we've put ourselves in a situation where they've got the whip hand, the fact that from January, as you said, they can go speak to the other clubs and they can leave for nothing in the summer.
Yeah.
So we're in a weak position with those two players. I wouldn't be too critical of the club, because when you look at all the contracts, the vast majority of Arsenal contracts are long term, but you can't be perfect on everyone. And, and those two have slipped through the net. They did try and move Nketiah on to Palace in the summer, and that deal was pretty much...
Brighton were looking as well.
They didn't fall through. You can't get everything right, and it's very easy to criticise what they get wrong. Yeah,
I completely agree with that. Elijah Super Chat says, something that stood out for me last night, the way we pressed Leeds, exactly what Ollie has been slated for not being able to get his team doing that. Does that end the argument about who's the better coach? I mean, that's probably something we'll touch on at the end of the show, see if we've got an update on the Ollie situation, but it looks like he's staying. Saim says, I think we're overestimating Nketiah and even Martinelli. They're good in cup games against Premier League B teams and get the odd goal against quality sides, but aren't 10 to 15 goal a season players. I'm not 100% sure you can say that about either of them personally. I definitely think Martinelli's got a higher ceiling. I'm just looking, see some of the replies, I appreciate every comment coming in. Cava said give them both 1 year extensions. They ain't signing it. Yeah. So what you're basically telling me is, well, then let them leave for free, because they're not signing that, and they're going to walk off on terms and sign on. A club will sign those players, on a free, probably put them on decent money and go, that's a really good punt, that, I think. And I think Nketiah will find a Premier League side, and I think Lacazette will find one more really good European side. He'll probably be playing Europa League or Champions League football next year. Would be my guess. Cap says Eddie can leave, Laka can stay. Pud says Laka is 30 years old, 31 in May. That's not that old in football though. I mean, they used to say 28's your prime, and the famous Wenger wouldn't give players over 30 more than 1 year deal.
Give them 1 year deal, and that worked well for us at that time. But then he did miss out on. Did he let Pires go too early?
Yeah.
But he, players like Bergkamp, he kept that going. He kept giving him a year's extension.
Yeah.
It kind of worked. And some of the mistakes that we've made in transfers in the last few years, we wouldn't have done if we'd followed that kind of strategy. I remember seeing years ago a film, was probably a bit before your time, Logan's Run.
Okay, I have heard of it.
Yeah, it's a futuristic sci-fi, and what happens is they all go to an amphitheatre when they hit 30 and get sucked up in the sky. I always think maybe we should have based our transfer policy around that film. We would have missed out on Willian if we'd done that.
Yeah, probably, most likely. Rohit with a comment here says, Laka should stay. He's like a web who stitches the team together on field and lifts up their spirit. We've got quite a few super chats coming in now. Let's get through them. Shreth says, Eddie, Callum, Kolasinac, Pablo and Mari, Lacazette need to be sold. Arsenal a shining example of not being able to sell bang average players. No new contract and sell Tripmaster Pepe. Tripmaster, that's harsh. Black Caesar.
What do you mean by Tripmaster? I've not heard that expression.
Means, neither have I, but I think it means trips himself up a lot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Black Caesar says, let Laka leave for free. We need him for the season. If I could, I'd move Aubameyang instead and extend Laka, but that would be tougher. Yeah, I mean, Aubameyang signed the long-term deal. We still got a year and a half left on that, which means come next summer, we've got to make a decision on Aubameyang, because otherwise he's 1 year from going for free.
But then, how old's Aubameyang going to be at the end of that contract? I think that's
34,
going to be.
I think.
Yeah, I think that's going to be an easier decision to make. I mean, there's something else about Lacazette that we haven't considered yet. And you hear a lot of the younger players talk him up, that he's the kind of guy you want around the training pitch, that the younger players look up to, and that could be quite supportive. So he can actually help bring them through.
Yeah, I don't have an issue. It's difficult. It's really difficult, because if someone said to me, you're going to let Lacazette go for free, but Calvert-Lewin is going to be signed for 60 mil, and a big part, Lacazette's wages essentially will go on him. I'm signing. I'm putting pen to paper on that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, do I think there are many genuinely gettable strikers that are big upgrades on Lacazette? Now, a lot of people say, well, Ollie Watkins, Tammy Abraham, all these. I'm not saying they're not good players. I'm not saying they've not got something to offer and that their ceiling's not higher. But are they right now a better player than Lacazette? I'm not sure. And I've said for a while that I think Lacazette, there's a really good player in Lacazette. It's just the system, and Arteta asking him to drop in midfield hasn't always helped him, or whatever. We saw how he did in his first season under Unai Emery. He was a killer. He was superb in front of goal. Got assists as well. Had a lovely partnership with Aubameyang. So Lacazette is a really weird one to judge. What's been your impression of him, if you're just to give a word on his career as an Arsenal player? Has it been underwhelming for you?
Effective.
Effective, okay.
Yeah, I'd call him effective. He's come to Arsenal at probably one of our lowest times that I can remember. So he hasn't played in a particularly successful Arsenal team. Let's think, if you put him in the Invincibles, would he score more goals? Of course he would.
Yeah, he'd score more goals for sure. Yeah.
He's not. They've not played well, and as a striker, to not play in a team that's playing well, it's a position that's more difficult to affect the game.
Yeah,
you're probably better off as a goalkeeper in a team that's not playing well.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Ayathathuka says, Nketiah is average at best. Fans got easily impressed by him scoring, but if you watch the whole game, Nketiah was poor. Decision making is poor. I personally disagree. I thought he was very good and deserved the goal because of his performance. Threefold Path says, Arteta will give Nketiah a real chance, just one-off games every couple of... Oh, sorry.
He says Arteta will never give Nketiah a real chance, just one-off games every couple of months, so might as well let him leave for free. He will never develop here. We're going to check on the poll in a bit. You always, I know you love looking kind of, you know what you were saying before about, well, it's not our money, it's the club's money, so yeah.
Well, but that is a view of some fans.
That's the view of some fans. But you actually are interested in the financial side of football and all that. And from a financial perspective, I can't see the extending of their contracts really ever making sense.
If they're looking to move Lacazette on for more money in 2-3 years' time, then no, because as I said, he's a depreciating asset. Nketiah, it's like what could be. He's got potential, but he has had quite a few chances. I wouldn't say he's bang average. I'd say he's slightly above average.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's going to be the next Ronaldo.
Yeah. Well, of course. Yeah.
But then I looked at Gnabry and I thought he was decent. I did. I saw a little bit of him.
No, Gnabry was a bad one.
Yeah, but then look,
it was a bad one to get wrong.
Gnabry also went to Birmingham. I think it was Birmingham City. It was either Birmingham or it was one of the teams in the Midlands, and he couldn't even get a game there. And then the next thing you see him is scoring hat-tricks for Bayern Munich. So how does that work? You don't always see it.
Yeah. Serge Gnabry was a bad one for me because when I was watching Arsenal, and this is where I get really annoyed with the Arsenal Academy sometimes, and even Arsene Wenger to a degree, dare I say. When I looked at Serge Gnabry, and by the way, this isn't me saying it was Wenger's fault because he's explained it and there's been reasons, but whatever. Serge Gnabry, it was obvious to me that the potential was there. I thought instantly he's a better player than Theo Walcott or other wingers we kept around for a long time. Obviously we then go on to give Iwobi, good 3 years, and I felt the potential was there with Serge Gnabry to eclipse both of them easily. For whatever reason, we didn't do it. But then you hear about other players like Ismail Benacer, who again had a really good reputation in the academy. He's now doing great at AC Milan, never got the chance at Arsenal. We then look at Donald Marlon, who's just been signed by Dortmund in the summer after doing brilliantly at PSV. Now he's doing really well. So I do get frustrated sometimes with, look at Saka and Smith Rowe, love them, they're doing brilliantly.
Yep.
But there are some players who have been given a long time at the academy that I've never understood why they did but others didn't. But that's kind of, it must just be so hard to know whether a youngster's going to do it or not.
Yeah, look, it's not a new thing. Back in the early 90s, you had a player called Andy Cole that was coming through.
Yeah.
Up front for Arsenal at that point, you had Ian Wright and Kevin Campbell. Now, you didn't have the squads that you do now.
Yeah.
These days, they'd have kept him as well, but it was a kind of choice. There's only so many players that you can fit in the team, and someone's got to go. So who are you going to pick? You've got Kevin Campbell, Ian Wright, you had Alan Smith there as well. There simply wasn't enough room. It was a young player. He looked good. What happened? They let him go. He went to, I think it was Bristol Rovers or Bristol City. Obviously did quite well there, but he dropped down a division. Newcastle pick him up at a time when Newcastle were a great team. Nothing to do with money.
Yeah.
And he sets the world alight. And the next thing, he's playing up front for Man United and one of their most successful strikers. It's very difficult to assess these things, and it's so easy to look back and criticise.
Sure.
But you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know.
No, absolutely.
But you should know a little bit more. And when they do get it wrong, it's nice to sit here and say, I told you so.
Yeah, exactly. And Gnabry is very much one of my I told you so moments.
But he did get injured.
He did get injured, and the loan spell at West Brom didn't help. And then I believe the contract was running down. He didn't want to sign on. But I also think a big part of that was maybe he didn't feel the belief in him from Arsenal. And I felt that as a fan. I felt watching it. I thought, you don't believe in this guy, and that worries me. But anyway, it's the rest is history. But that's the main topic of the day, guys, is Nketiah Lacazette. What you guys do? I think we've done well to really break down the why you would or wouldn't extend their deals, or what we do and what the options are on the table for Arsenal. Keep letting us know in the comments. And yeah, we will see, because Arsenal are going to have to. They've got November, December to enjoy their football, but January decisions have to be made again. So we'll see what happens then. The rest of this title was our Classenal back. Now, this is a word I sort sort of floating around Twitter, I think. So not today, but just have done over the years. Classy Arsenal, that's where it comes from. When Arsenal weren't winning titles, still aren't, but at least when they were on the trophy drought, hadn't won FA Cups or whatever, and I'm not just saying this to be sentimental or whatever, but I genuinely took so much pride in the way my club conducted itself. I love that we promoted youngsters, I love that we played good football, I love that our fans were never in the media for, causing trouble abroad or whatever it is. There was a lot to love about Arsenal. I love the red and white sleeves, it's classy. The Emirates Stadium's a lovely stadium. There was so much to like about it. Players you liked, a manager you liked, all that. And I felt that this reputation had been slightly tarnished over the last few years. Now, I'm not going to go into the individual debates, but the handling of Mesut Ozil at times, the handling of other certain key players, the Granit Xhaka throwing his armband, some aren't even happy with fan channels, let's say. There's always been, just the last sort of 4 or 5 years, I've looked at Arsenal, the Gunnosaurus thing. There's just things I've seen that I've not really liked, but of late I've been seeing a lot of things I have really loved. And I wanted to ask you about what kind of Arsenal's reputation away from football kind of means to you.
It's always meant everything to me. When I started supporting Arsenal, it was the mid-70s, and we were crap. We really were. Compared with where we are now, we were a lot worse then. But what I loved about it, I walked in with my father, and there was the commissionaire, they were all dressed up. The band came round at half time. They threw the baton in the air, and everyone was hoping that the guy would always drop it. He never did.
Yeah.
There was this air of it's Arsenal. It was almost like the royal club. It was a cut above everyone else. It wasn't just a football club. The players wore blazers.
Yeah.
The club crest, they wore a tie. The manager, it was formal.
Yeah.
It was a gentleman's club. It was just a cut above. It was class. And there wasn't class on the pitch, but there was class behind.
Right.
The ownership had been the same and been handed down from generations. Herbert Chapman bust in the Highbury halls. The stories behind it, Arsenal were always the first to put numbers on the shirts, the first to have floodlights, the first to have a station named after them. Gillespie Road was renamed Arsenal. It was never Arsenal. Everything around Arsenal is called Arsenal because of us, not because that was the area.
Sure.
The whole place resonated class.
Yeah, and it's exactly why I wanted to, because of news that came up today, but this is why I'm so glad I had you to talk about these things, because I knew you'd just take us down a little history lesson with all these things. I didn't know that the station was named. It makes sense now, obviously, because it was Woolwich Arsenal. We came to North London, and we've even got. Do you know what? I'm going to go get it. Actually,
cool.
We've got the. Let me run and get it. The tube. What do you call this?
The tube signage.
Tube signage. Yeah. Here we are.
Well, I tell you something interesting. Just putting my anorak on. If you pull into Arsenal Station, you'll see the original tiles. And on the original tiles, it still says Gillespie Road.
Right.
So check it out next time you are travelling to Arsenal
See,
Station.
it's a proper Arsenal historian, this guy. Anyway, so this, you say Gillespie Road.
Gillespie
It's
Road.
funny, I always just say Gillespie. But...
And another little story. I know a Spurs fan who's a tube driver, and whenever he pulled into Arsenal, he would announce over the tannoy Gillespie Road.
No, did he really?
Refused to say the word Arsenal. Bitter
That's
Spurs
fantastic.
fans.
That is fantastic. So anyway, the reason I'm bringing this all up, I agree. Arsenal being classy, a club that that other fans would say, you know what, I'm a West Ham fan, but I don't mind Arsenal. You know, I've heard that a lot of times. I'm a Liverpool fan, but I've always quite liked Arsenal. I always hear almost like generations above me say that. I think my generation and maybe younger, there's now more of a rivalry, whether it's because of online, whether it's social media, whether it's Arsenal just aren't as good. I don't know what it is. I mean, we've got some of the... Well, there was a comment here that made a really good point. Right, Gunning You Down mentions the 55 redundancies, Gunnosaurus, the scouts being sort of just... The scouting department was torn apart. You know, there were reasons why people were struggling with Arsenal from a off-field perspective, but there's been things of late that I think on a news show like this are really worth pointing out. I'm going to start with the hashtag Arsenal supporting supporters, taking initiative to help out the fans who have local businesses. We've got the Tollington pub, we've got please forgive me if you know the names, please put them in, but you know, obviously the hairdressers they went to, and helping local cafes, and what it's great to see. And it's great to see the club supporting the area. Cynics will say, good PR stunt, but I don't, you know what? They're helping them.
Yeah.
And I like that from my club. That's what I want to see.
It's class. It is class. And you can say it's good PR. I suppose real class would be to do it and not promote it.
Mm-hmm.
But then we're in the modern world. It is a business, so if you are going to do good for the community, it's in your interest to promote it, so people like us talk about it.
Part of the point is by promoting it, people know about it.
Of course, especially with the Tollington pub and the hairdressers, there's no way to not promote it.
Absolutely.
But look, it's a good reason.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to do. I don't think you can criticise it in any way.
Mm-hmm.
Good PR, yeah, why not? Mm-hmm. Why not? Helps everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. No, listen, I completely agree. That was one of just a few things that caught my eye. I'm not going to mention the name here because I don't feel it's really my place. But if you want to go on Twitter, check out Arsenal's tweet replies and you can see the whole story. But it was basically a fan who took, I'm just having a look, took his son to his first ever Arsenal game. And basically his son has autism, he says, and was basically kind of struggling with the atmosphere and stuff. And Arsenal, as they were leaving, the steward stepped in, invited them to the sensory room at club level, and they were able to enjoy the rest of the game. They were able to enjoy the occasion. And Arsenal obviously tweeted a reply to the story. Please go check it all out on Twitter because I found it really moving actually. Arsenal tweeted saying, "We are so glad we're able to help you and your son. Arsenal, we're incredibly proud of our sensory room. And Luke absolutely loved meeting you guys." And we've got a picture of Luke, who I assume looks after that side of things for the club. Again, very classy. I love that. You know, what they basically explained was that they're on their way out, and a steward stepped in to sort of ask why. You know, well, in a polite way, how come you're leaving? And they sorted something out to keep them there. And I really, that would have been a very kind of emotional moment, and I'm really glad. I'm proud of the club. I like that. I love hearing these things.
It was inclusive to make sure that everyone could enjoy the atmosphere. The only thing, I'm not critical of it, and maybe it's my own ignorance, but when you mentioned the sensory room this afternoon, I was unaware of what there was. I asked you, what is the sensory room? You explained, I understood. But the fact that they were leaving, they obviously didn't know about the sensory room either. And it's a good story to be able to promote what the sensory room is.
Sure.
But why didn't they know about it before? Why didn't I know about it before? Why didn't they, if anything, maybe the PR machine hasn't worked particularly well in the past because we'd never heard of it. Had you heard of it before?
I knew clubs had them. But I think what I like about this is the fan has gone out their way to say, you know, guys, this is what happened, and Arsenal then obviously responded, and that's great. And it's one or two things I've seen today. If you just give me 1 sec while I head over to Twitter. Arsenal also posted their support for Josh Cavallo. Now Josh Cavallo is a professional footballer, came out as gay. I think it was earlier today. And obviously Arsenal, retweeted with their support, saying thank you for your strength and bravery. A couple lines, and then the world is a better place today. The world of football is a better place today because of you. And again, showing support for, a player who's done a very brave thing, come out, told their story, and I like the club. I'm saying getting involved in these things, just showing support, being inclusive. That's the word you used. I love that. And the reason I'm mentioning all this is because classy Arsenal, Classenal, being a team that was classy on the pitch, off the pitch, was a big part of why I fell in love with the club. So these little things matter to me. Maybe not to others, and I can completely appreciate if not. You might just be interested in the football. To me, they matter.
They do matter. But going back to what you said about the results, it's important, but without the results to go with it, it still makes people angry. But something like this is really important. It's really important. Now, just going back to the Sensory Room, and I said I hadn't heard of it before. What was most important there was that the steward had, and the steward not only had heard of it, but had the foresight and education to ask the question, why are you leaving? It showed they actually cared about the supporter.
Sure. Well, that's it, and that's doing a great job. That's looking after the fans. So
but this particular story, it's a very big story. I mean, I couldn't believe that. I mean, people talked about the ratios of homosexual men in the world, about 10%. I don't know how true that is, but if it is 10%, and this is the first ever professional player to come out as openly gay, that's staggering that they wouldn't feel the confidence to do it. Now, I saw the video, and one thing I can take from that video was the happiness and relief that he was showing. It was a 3-minute video, and he was genuinely happy. He felt that it was a burden to hide what is part of him, and he's come out and been able to do that, and he was happy. He said, I'm relieved. I feel so much happier now I can come out with that. But why is he the first professional player to come out in the modern era? I know there was Justin Fashanu before, and that didn't end too well for him.
Well, I mean, this is a whole other debate.
Yeah.
I mean, because I think, whilst I think there are amazing fans, passionate fans, some great football fans, I think football as well, we've seen evidence of it, that football fandom can still be very backward, can still be very uninclusive.
Could be vile.
Absolutely. Good word. And it's not the kind of... I know, but I don't know is what I'm trying to say. Like, I know why, but also I almost can't believe that, it can't be an easier space for people to come out. But it's go watch the video. Josh Cavallo, Australian football player, it did a really brave thing, and it's good to see Arsenal obviously supporting it and stuff, and as we all should. And I just wanted to kind of touch on those things. Two of the tweets I sort of saw today on the back of the supporters thing that happened over the last couple of weeks. I've been proud of the club. Let's see. It's the kind of standards, and at times there were things they did for the area during the pandemic as well, and we obviously don't forget all that. But it became a big topic in my head when I did supporters club with Turkish. It became a discussion of, what's wrong with Arsenal? I kept saying, we keep talking about what's on the pitch, but off the pitch I'm being left disappointed as well. And that's where I think I'm going to sort of remain consistent and talk about the off-field issues as well when I see good, and I've seen things that I'm proud of.
So look, if it can turn around on and off the pitch, then it's the perfect world.
Yeah, we've got a comment from Anthony. So now let's take this all the way back to the original discussion. Nketiah and Lacazette, what would you do? Essentially, we can either let them go for free at the end of the season, get what we can out of them for the rest of the year, or extend their deals, because Lacazette still only 30, Nketiah got most of it, probably the best of his career still to come. Are we really sitting here saying that we're happy to let them all go for nothing? That was the main discussion. I'm just going to try to get the poll back. 61% of people are saying that they would extend their deals. Let us know. Victor saying extend Laka, let Nketiah leave. He still isn't good enough. Interesting. Official VK says this is a very tricky debate. To be honest, I would keep Laka and sell Eddie. Laka is a super sub, physical and strong. What else have we got? Best in the World says should be selling both. I I don't know. I'm still not sure. I think ultimately I want the fresh start, but does it really make sense financially to just say you can all walk for nothing?
But there is another consideration going back to the numbers game, simple numbers game. It depends on the formation, but you've got 5 players that can play that one position. If he decides to play a one position, is it worth having 5 players for one position? When they're all fit and well, then no. But then if you get 2 or 3 injuries and then you've got no one to fill that space, then you start screaming, where's Nketiah? Because you've just sold him. What's going to replace him? One thing we've always discussed and agreed on is that if you are going to replace these players, upgrade.
Sure.
So again, it depends on what's going to replace them. If, as you said, we get Calvert-Lewin, I mean, for me, I'd swap both of them, Calvert-Lewin, and put some money towards it. That seems to make sense.
Well, but this is it. We've got Chris Davison says, I would sell both all day. Westside says, keep both. But then Benji says, I want a new striker. A new striker.
Yeah.
Psycho. A new striker. Theo says, sell Oba. I mean, it's very split. And I am surprised. 61% of people are saying extend contracts. Maybe there's a bit of recency bias creeping in there.
Yeah, of course it is. Look, you get a player that has a good game and you want to keep him. It's reactionary. That's what fans do.
Well, Patrick here says, Eddie is still raw, has the potential to be a great player, but has a lot to learn. Look at Patrick Bamford. I mean, Patrick Bamford really blossomed late in his career. I mean, was he 26 now, mate? I might be wrong. But I think he's like 26, 27. And last season, superb for Leeds. People thought he could never put goals away in the Premier League, and he's looking the complete deal, the complete striker.
Yeah.
So that's where it gets tough.
And another example of that is Jamie Vardy.
Yeah. Jamie Vardy's a great example. Some strikers do blossom late. I struggle, apart from Rashford, even Kane had a few loan spells and was sort of 22, 23 when he really started to become the player he is. Let's end with this super chat from Aya Thithuka. Says, what's funny is that the same fans who voted to extend both their contracts will be the same ones who will complain about us giving Deadwood extensions. Maybe.
That's a great point. That really is a great point. We can all clamour, as you said, recency. I like that word. They've played well. Let's extend their contracts. Few games down the line, they're playing badly. Arsenal playing badly.
We can't sell them.
We can't sell them. What a ridiculous deal.
Yeah, exactly. Very true. Well, Julian, I've really enjoyed this.
And me.
Thank you for the history lessons as always. I've enjoyed it, and also enjoyed talking about the classiness of Arsenal. That a lot of people, and with reason, will feel that there's still a lot of it lost, and this is not the club they fell in love with, or the club that had that community feel and all those things, and sure, there's, and then that's, I'm not saying that's not true, but I'm going to point out the good as well as I'm going to point out the bad, and it's something that Graham and I always make a point of, our tactical insight. We said something good about Arteta the other day, and people say, oh, here's the Arteta propaganda. We just give facts, we just tell you what's happening, and we just comment on that particular thing, and that's how I feel about these things. Some things have happened today that I've noticed. They've put me in a good mood, and I want to chat to them, chat to you about them.
And all we need to do now is bring back the police band at half time, and we're there.
The police band. Tell them a little bit about that quick.
Half time, they'd have a police band at Highbury. I think they phased it out in the 90s. Don't remember it going on for too much longer than when Wenger came there. And they'd have a stick at the front, and he'd throw it in the air and it would twirl round and round and round. He'd always catch it, and the crowd would always kind of cheer when he caught it, but everyone was always hoping that he'd drop it. And in all the years, I'm not sure how long it went on for, but I think it had gone on for decades.
Right.
I can't ever remember the guy dropping it. And that actually brought it back for the last game at Highbury.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was brought back 2006, that last game.
If you're listening, bring it back.
Yeah, bring it back. And the club Blazers.
And the old badge while you're at it. All right, we've got the lot. Guys, don't forget the Marble Halls podcast, new episode with Keith Edelman, Julian and Harvey will be coming out tomorrow. We've got all sorts of content as well coming out throughout the week as we prepare for Leicester. Big game. Hopefully we get the win there. Or at least a performance. Anyway, let's see. We'll be there. Anyway, thank you, Julian. Thanks, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe, all that, and we will see you tomorrow.